Mystery Brothers. Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Bros.
Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Bros.
Alrighty. Yo, what up?
What's up, everybody? This is Mystery Bros, episode 9.
Coming from quarantine Detroit.
Yeah. We're going to be talking about the Ark of the Covenant today.
Oh, yeah.
Which is honestly, it's like one of the very few ancient mysteries that we have. You know what I mean? Like,
It's a mystery? I thought it was just an Indiana Jones film.
yes, it's that big. There's been movies made about it. There's this book called the Bible. You ever heard of that book? There's this book called the Bible, and it's like
Wow.
it's
Let's
like
get out of the
all
way.
about it, all about the Ark of the Covenant. There's a lot of information in the Bible about it, and it's just one of the ancient mysteries of, like, first of all,
Oh, it's called the Bible? I thought it was a Bible.
first of all, where is it today? All right, that's a big mystery because there's a lot of different theories. It kind of just vanishes somewhere in the 6th and 7th century. It just kind of vanishes out of the text of the Bible, and it's just not really mentioned again. No one really knows why.
Yeah.
So there's
And
a
we're going to
mystery
go
as
over
to,
like some of the mysterious places.
yeah.
And there's a claim that it's actually right in front of our eyes. So stay tuned about that.
Are all given the tease there, the radio tease. This is a podcast. They can fast forward and shit when they want to. And we're also going to kind of talk about the mystery of, like, what was it? Like according to the Bible, it's, the 10 Commandments, the tablets given to Moses by God, but people want to know what it really is because, we're talking about, like, scientists and archaeologists and stuff, not necessarily religious scholars. So we'll go into the mystery of where it is today and what it was. But first we're going to go into kind of a little background, and we'll give you kind of what the gist of the Ark of the Covenant as we know it, as far as what's in the Bible. So like I said, it vanished somewhere around the 6th and 7th century.
BC.
Yeah, BC. Yeah, of course. And so the Ark of the Covenant is basically, it's a box that God told Moses to build because God was going to give Moses the 10 Commandments, and he wanted him to build the Ark of the Covenant to house the 10 Commandments, which the 10 Commandments, you should know what those are. The 10 Commandments are the 10 Commandments from God, but it was the only thing. It was supposedly on 2 slabs, and it's really the only thing that's ever been recorded of the only item that, like, God has ever given to humans. It was 1.2 meters long, 76 centimeters tall, 76 centimeters wide. That's the dimensions of it. It was made out of acacia wood, which is the tree of life. And then it was surrounded, or it was covered inside and out with gold. All right?
Ooh.
So that's, and the lid was just a big solid slab of gold, and it had 2 cherubim angels on the top of it with the wings outstretched towards each other. So if you kind of get a picture, it's just like a really good looking box, all covered in gold with a big slab on top with 2 angels.
Sounds like something that I want for my next birthday.
Yeah, it was very specific, which is why people think it was more than just a story.
Yeah, why would you go into so much detail?
Yeah, it was very, very detailed as to the dimensions, what it looked like, this and that, in the material. So God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, told him to put the 10 Commandments in the ark, along with the pot of manna and the staff of Moses' brother. All right? And the ark was kind of meant to be like, it was to carry God's word, which in a way it was meant to carry God. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people said it had like a mysterious, like, cloud that kind of floated around it, like that kind of thing. And people posited that, like, that was God. You know what I mean? His sense, his aura. So and then once it was given to Moses, they built the covenant, and it was kind of housed in like temporary like houses and tents and stuff that they built at the time until Moses freed the Israelites
Right.
from Egypt and brought them back to Israel.
Put it in Solomon's temple.
And it was King David was given direction by God of a temple to build for it, and then his father his son King Solomon actually built the temple, and it was called Solomon's Temple. He built it on sacred rock called a Shatia, and it was built very specific dimensions, and that's where the Ark of the Covenant was housed. But before that, there's a lot of crazy stories about the power and like the kind of stuff that it did, which is what makes us have so many weird questions about what it was and that kind of thing, and wonder so much of where it is. So I mean, there was all kinds of weird stories, like it would kill people that touched it that weren't supposed to. It wiped out entire enemies, like they used it during battle, like all this kind of stuff. So what?
I mean, it was technically that they explained the tools to manipulate the environment.
Yeah.
What it did for the walls of Jericho when they had the battle, they marched around the walls for 7 days, and then the walls came crashing down.
That's crazy. Like, so it had some sort of powers, is what they're saying. You know what I mean? If you believe all these stories, it definitely had some sort of power.
Right. They say at the same time the ark was extremely dangerous. It would burst into flames.
If you touched it, right? And
Yes.
you weren't meant to.
It would just strike people and just fall.
They'd just be dead.
It would levitate people, throw them around. And the Hebrews lost the ark to the Philistines in a battle. Mm-hmm. And the Philistines, they started to get, oh my gosh, those poor Philistines. Started to get sores, tumors.
Really?
Get sick.
And there was in like multiple different cities that they brought it around to, right? And then they ended up giving it back.
They were
like, shit, we don't want this.
We don't want this. You just bring death and destruction now.
Like, this shit's just killing everybody. Just take it back. And then eventually, I don't know what I was going to say. Is there any more?
That's basically it. Like people would used to do sacrifices, and it would just kill them.
Yeah. There's all kinds of stories of like people that weren't supposed to touch it that like saw it and touched it, and then they just died.
Right.
So there's some sort of crazy power that this thing holds. You know what I mean? Like, and that's why it's so mysterious. That's why people care about it so much. That's why people wonder about it. But all these stories kind of come to an end at 700 BC or so. King Isaiah, he ordered the slaughter of the Syrian army, which was occupying Jerusalem. And a lot of people think that slaughter involved the Ark of the Covenant. They used it to help them. But after this, it was never mentioned again. It kind of vanishes from text, no mention as to where it went.
And the details of the pillaging, it kept what they took from the temple kept like illicit records. Yeah. What they took, and the ark was nowhere mentioned.
Yeah, it's strange. There was an invasion later, and you're right, like by another group, and they supposedly they opened the temple, but there's no mention of them seeing the ark or taking it or anything army, like that.
Like never.
So that's kind of where the mystery starts. You know, we wonder what happened to it. There are a lot of, information about it. There's a lot of texts that say, that point to it could have gone here, it could have been here. There's a lot of different stories.
It is interesting, though, that it was such a big part of Jewish culture back then, and it just kind of went forgotten about.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Like, no one really mentions, no one really cares. And this was like a huge part of their history.
It is crazy, but there's just a lot of time that is lost in there, and they don't really know exactly what happened to it. But there are some theories, and we'll kind of go into some theories of where it is now first, where it might be, and then we'll kind of get into the what it may be. Mm-hmm. All right, so, there's the theory. If we'll go with like the most recent. There's a theory that a lot of people think the Knights of Templar found it back in like the 1300s.
Took to England
during the Crusades. Yeah, they believe that the Crusades was kind of a false like cover up, basically, to go look for the Ark of the Covenant and the Holy Grail. And a lot of people think that they went to Jerusalem and they dug it up. And some people think that they found it. Some people think that they dug up for it and didn't find it. But the people that say that they think they found it, they say it took it to England, right? Took it back to England with them. And it's buried under a church, right?
Yeah. That's the only thing the logical explanation is, because otherwise, if it was taken, it would have been written some kind of an account by the English.
Yeah.
And which it never was.
Maybe they wanted to be secret or something, so they didn't write about it, blah, blah, blah.
That's the theory.
But yeah, supposedly the Knights Templar found it. That's like one of the most recent ones. But there's not really much evidence of that. I don't think they've ever, come to this is where they think it is here in England. They just think it's hidden somewhere under a church in England, right?
I heard one, like, some shows have gone searching for it. One mentioned, like, it could be at a palace in Scotland.
Yeah.
They've not done any excavating.
Yeah, they don't have enough information to, like, actually go and do that kind of stuff. But
right.
It's always interesting to think, that the Knights Templar ended up finding it.
It must be such a bad feeling. Like, all right, let's dig up this whole entire church ground and find nothing. And you're just like,
and they don't find anything. Another big theory, one that actually has a decent amount of information and stories behind it, is that it is now in Ethiopia, in the ancient city of Axiom. Now, one reason that people think this is because the Ethiopians claim that it's there. They say it's in their church, the My Lady Mary Church of Zion. They say it's in there, and they have monks that
in Axiom, yeah.
Only monks are allowed to look at it, and there's only a few that are chosen. Otherwise, they don't let anybody else in, which makes it kind of hard to verify. You can't really say like, "Oh, it's there for sure," because they won't let you look at it.
Em and I are actually having a plan of we're just going to show up with some guns, show up to the heads, and
we're just going to show up and be like, "Listen, we want to look at it. Okay, we're not going to do anything to it. We just want to see it and take a picture.
We want to see if it's actually there.
We want to believe you.
Yeah,
we want to believe you, but we need some proof here." But yeah, they really don't give a shit. They don't let anybody go in there. Now there's some evidence that we can point to today that makes this a little more believable. There are some very, very like archaic there are some very archaic like Jewish tribes in Ethiopia that practice the same type of Judaism that was practiced around the time of the covenant.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Like the same dietary restrictions, the same types of worship. They follow everything.
It's an ancient culture.
Yeah, it's like the ancient culture, it's ancient Jewish culture that's living in Ethiopia right now, which is really cool. And another some text that kind of goes into this. There's the Kebra Nagast, which is an ancient Egyptian like tale that has been told for a very long time, where it says the Queen of Egypt in about, I think it was like 1,000. Or no. It was about 1,000-ish. 1,000 BC or so. Around the time of Solomon, which I think was around that time. It was 900, somewhere around there. The Queen of the Queen of Ethiopia, her name was Sheba, and she went to visit King Solomon. She ended up getting knocked up.
Ooh.
They fell in love, and they had a child. But she decided that she wanted to go back and be the ruler of Ethiopia. She didn't want to stay in Egypt, so she went back to Ethiopia, had her child, and then her child's name was King Menelik. When he was born and he became 20 years old, he went back to Jerusalem to visit his dad, King Solomon, and it was great. They had a really good visit. Apparently, Solomon was very welcoming and all that kind of stuff. But Menelik had to go back, so he went back. And on his way back, a group of men that were with him, priests, I believe, they said that they stole the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh.
At that point, he was like, it's too late. This was God's will. So he continued with it and brought it back with him to Ethiopia. Now, there are apparently some stops along the way where it may have stayed for a very long time. Apparently, there's some stories that some ancient Jews that escaped, not escaped, but they left Jerusalem, and they took the ark with them, and they stopped on Elephantine Island, which is an island on the Nile River that's close to Aswan, which is in Egypt, like very close to Egypt. And they believe this because there was a temple built on the island of Elephantine that matches the exact same dimensions and everything as the Temple of Solomon. So they believe that they took it from the Temple of Solomon, built this temple that was like basically the exact same dimensions, the exact same temple, and housed it on Elephantine Island for a long time. This was between 692 and 638 during the reign of Manasseh. Is when this happened. So this was way after the story of Menelik. So there's a lot of different ways it could have gotten to Ethiopia. Menelik is one, but the other one is this story that it was on the.
Yeah.
So just a sect of Levites.
Yeah, a lot of people do dismiss this as a kind of a myth, though, because they can't prove
the Menelik part. Yes,
was real.
Yeah, the Menelik, the part about the Kebra Nagast, or Kebra Nagast, the story of Sheba and King Solomon, all that stuff. None of that stuff can be proven. That's an epic.
Yeah.
So that's just a tale, but sometimes tales are true, this or that. But so people give it a look at least, but there's no way to prove it. It's just a cool story. Now, the other stories is what I was saying, where that group of the Levi tribe that took it during the reign of Manasseh between 692 and 638, which is about the exact same time that it kind of disappears from the Bible, up by King Solomon. And then the temple that was built in Elephantine Island has been excavated by German archaeologists and German scientists, and they say it was built at around that exact time, they say around 690 BC. So that's a lot of coincidences there. They have the exact same temple, and then supposedly around 410 BC, that temple was attacked by Egyptians and it was destroyed. And the Levites, they took the ark and brought it down to the island of Tanakerkos, which is an island that's way farther south down the Nile into where Ethiopia was at the time. And it was on the island of Tanakerkos for a while, like 800 years. Between 300 and 350 AD, it was taken to Axiom by the king at the time, whose name was King Azana. That's the story of it making its way to Ethiopia. Yeah, which is very interesting. I, for one, just don't think it's in Ethiopia just because of the light of security that they have. I don't understand that. What do you even mean? Like, there's one monk guarding it. Yeah. This might be one of the most powerful weapons of human history. More protection and more word would have been gone out. Who's going to steal it? Someone's going to steal it. Not anyone in their tribe. ISIS. Are they really going to go steal the Ark of the Covenant? They really care that much? Is it that important? Hitler cared that much. Yeah. But that's Hitler. Hitler was fucking crazy. I don't know. For me, there's some evidence, but why won't they let anybody see it? It just doesn't make sense. Yeah. Because it's super religious. They don't let anybody look at it. No one can go in. Yeah, but anybody can make a claim, Evan. I can claim that it's in your bathroom right there. Yeah, but the claim, they're not basically, they have no gain from this. Yeah. You know what I mean? They're not claiming they're claiming it.
I know they're not saying like, here's the Ark of the Covenant, come take a picture.
Yeah,
$10,
yeah, it's nothing like
$10 a
that.
pic.
Like it's just such a religious thing to them. And it's interesting that the monks tend to die off quickly. You know what I mean? Like they said that usually the monks that they have watching it only last a couple years. They die mysteriously.
Yeah. I mean, there's a theory that there's more than one Ark, and that's one of the locations.
Yeah. Well, if you go by the Bible, it's the 2 tablets.
Yeah.
So one could be in one location, one could be in another. But the actual ark is just the box that they built.
Yeah.
And there should only be one of those. There's only one.
There's some theories that there's a couple others.
Well, those theories are stupid. Yeah. And yeah, I mean it's I haven't heard much of else. You had something about Japan, right?
Yeah, I mean Japan.
Basically, there's legends that kind of describe something very similar, right? In Japanese, ancient Japanese culture.
On the island of Tsuriki. So there's an island in Japan. There's a legend that the Ark can be found on top of Mount Tsurugi. It's a Japanese island of Shikoku. I'm sorry if I'm messing these up. Battering up these bad. Some people think the Ark is there. There's a tradition each year the Japanese have of carrying a big stone Ark to the top of the mountain. The Ark claims similar folklore to what there's a lot of parallels to what the ones that's described in the Bible and to the one that's described in Japanese in folklore. So there's theories that there's an ancient Israelite brought to Japan and hid it in Mount Tsugi. And Hitler was he believed that theory very strongly. And he sent Nazis to go look into Japan, try to go find it. There's been excavations done. And some even think that kind of why there was an alliance with Japan.
That's crazy.
Hey, we
just wanted to find the Ark of the Covenant.
But
the thing is,
that's a little, yeah.
The thing with that is they don't claim that it's the Ark of the Covenant, right? There's just stories about something that's very similar, right?
Right.
Which is interesting. Why would they bring it to Japan?
But Hitler was very intrigued with that idea, so that he spent a lot of time. Right now, it's now located as a national park, so there's no more digging excavation. So we will never know. Also, it's a big mountain. Like, I don't know, like, how you can pinpoint a spot of where they dug it. Like, I could dig a chest anywhere in the mountain.
Yeah, if you look at it, dude, the dimensions of it's 1.2 meters by, like, 76 centimeters by 70. That's pretty small, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
like,
gonna be...
we could go, like, dig a hole in the mountain, put it in somewhere. Dude, they would never find it. They would never find it.
That's, like, smaller than this desk. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's tough. You're not really going to know exactly where it is, which makes it hard. But yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of legend about where it could be. I tend to think that the Ethiopia thing is the most credible, I guess I would say. There's just a lot of folklore behind it. And then it's interesting that they have found that temple on the island of Elephantine that's like the exact same dimensions, you know what I mean? And there's a story about them bringing it there, right?
Yeah.
That's just crazy to me. That's interesting. And that's almost like evidence to me that it made its way there at some point. But you never know.
I mean, they found those temporary building structures for the Ark, so they think that
the temporary tents that it was in before the King Solomon made the temple. They found those in certain areas in Egypt.
So right? it helps support the fact that it did exist.
Yeah. As far as where it could be, you know, there's all these different theories. Well, I don't think, again, it's one of those things that we'll probably never know.
Some would even think it's in an Egyptian tomb.
Yeah.
There's a lot of theories. Yeah. I've heard France, too. It's ended up in France.
Really? France? I've never heard that. Could be, though. I mean, England and Scotland is the place, if you think the Knights Templar actually found it.
Yeah.
Somewhere in Europe, you know. Some people think it's still in Jerusalem somewhere. But never been able to find.
Oh yeah, in Solomon. Some people think it's in Solomon's temple still right now.
Yeah, but we've never been able to find Solomon's temple.
That's what kind of leads me to think that it might not be. It's kind of more of a myth.
Yeah, that's another theory. I mean, there's a dude named Israel Finkelstein, and he believes that the whole thing is just kind of a big myth. Like, it's a big story. There's a lot of evidence behind, or not evidence, but like a lot of like stuff he says. I mean, there's just a lot of things that we've never been able to verify. Like, we've excavated like so much of Israel, so much of Jerusalem, and we found plenty of like temples and that kind of stuff, but none of the temples ever mention King Solomon, King David, or the Ark of the Covenant. He thinks that King Solomon, King David aren't real people. That it was just myth, like a story.
It would kind of explain why it was kind of forgotten about after it was never mentioned again.
The Ark?
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. I mean, it does like the stories about what it did and like the damage it could do and all that stuff. Like, that stuff seems mythical, you know what I mean?
I know, especially we have to think that there's probably some evidence to the Bible stories that are true, but if we take it word for word, then we have to like agree that the earth is 5,000 years old, that we're from Adam and Eve. When you like think of Darwinism and think of how old the earth is, we kind of know that's not true. So if you go...
There's a lot of science that tends to not agree much with the Bible.
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm trying to say.
I tend to lean towards science, if you ask me. But,
yeah,
some people take the Bible as literal truth. So it depends. Obviously, that's going to sway your beliefs on the Ark, whether you think it's real or any of that kind of stuff. But I mean, Israel Finkelstein, he's an archaeologist from Israel. And
he will definitely not be forgotten by his last name.
That's Finkelstein.
That's one thing for sure.
Yeah, he just thinks that it was all a nice myth that people told. He thinks it came from Egypt, actually, like the myth. Because the ark, he says that the word ark in Hebrew means boat or vessel. And the word ark in Egyptian meant like box or carrier. So it would make more sense. And there's a lot of like hieroglyphs of Egyptians carrying around things very similar.
Yeah, I've seen like carrying stuff, so I could see that.
So he thinks maybe they got the cool idea from Egypt.
My man might be something. I might be onto something.
Israel. So there's that. Some people say it's just not even real. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean.
So who the fuck knows where it is? But I think an even more intriguing question is what is it? Dude? What is it? So if it is real, right? How can you explain some of the stuff that it did in the legends and the stories, but also keep it realistic? Some people don't, though. So
some people don't.
Some people just here's where our famous aliens are going to come in, right?
So some people think it's a man machine.
A what?
Some people think it's a machine that it's a nuclear weapon.
Okay.
So it kind of
would explain the like radioactivity
and
type
sickness.
Well, I mean, they never said it was radioactive, but if you think about the kind of stuff that it did, where it gave people like sores,
they wouldn't know if it was radioactive.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been able to know, but like that sounds a lot like something that's radioactive.
Yeah.
So that's why. Okay. So I think it was some sort of like, are they saying it was built by Moses?
No.
Who are they saying it was built by? Aliens?
Not either an ancient
humans?
civilization, or you're gonna have to go with aliens.
Aliens.
And the reason for this, they give out that God didn't hand down the testaments to Moses on Mount Sinai.
They think it was some sort of aliens passing on something
to
humans type of thing.
Yes.
Which is always an intriguing theory, and it's like always fun to talk about.
I think it's more believable than God, but yeah, I know. But like, I'm also not out there, so I don't personally believe it, but that's just an intriguing theory that
Yeah.
it would be from some supernatural
Some
power.
other sort of civilizations.
Yeah.
I mean, supernatural powers are almost like one of the only ways to explain like all the crazy stuff it was doing, right?
Yes.
Another theory that I've heard that's a little more tame, a little more logical, is they believe that it was like a piece of a meteorite that fell on Mount Sinai when Moses was out there, because he was exiled to Mount Sinai for 40 years, and that's when he came back with the tablets after that. And they think it was basically like a piece of a meteorite that was radioactive, because some meteorites are radioactive. And if you think about it, like a meteorite falling from the sky kind of seems like, if you think about it, it's like someone from the sky giving you something, right? Mm-hmm. So that would make sense as far as like the story. But then, that would make sense as far as like where it came from. He says it came from God, but it was like a meteor that fell. And it was very radioactive, which kind of explains why people would die around it. People's skin would get messed up around it. And they had to build the gold box. You know what I mean? If they built the gold box, the acacia wood surrounded in all gold would be able to hold the radioactivity in and wouldn't let it out. So you could carry it around like that. But if you opened it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's definitely believable. The meteorite. The thing is, if it was like that kind of meteorite, we haven't really found one like that ever in our history.
Yeah, we found radioactive meteors.
Not like what Moses described.
Yeah, okay, but I think you have to. This is where you have to start kind of like.
No, I'm not saying it did everything.
Not take the Bible so literal, which is what we were just talking about. Maybe it wasn't all 100% true. Maybe they didn't walk it around the walls of Jericho for 7 days and then the walls just fell down, that kind of stuff. But maybe it did have maybe it did have some weird like powers as to like people that were exposed to it for too long got sick and died type of thing. People say it was some sort of like electrical device.
Oh yeah, electrical.
Right.
That powered something very strong, very electrical.
Yeah.
That they think the gold and the wood would be great insulators for the electricity. Mm-hmm. That's a theory, but nobody has claimed like how it would connect or what. Kind of a stretch.
Yeah, it's hard to like be able to say anything concrete.
But it could, like light flashes, everybody just gets electrocuted, dies.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, dude. It's hard to say anything concrete when you don't have it. You know what I mean? You can't look at it. You can't know. So it's like, I think you need to figure out where it is. We need to figure out where it is. I think, obviously, this will never happen, but I wish we could just like go into that church in Ethiopia and be like, we're gonna just take a look at it.
That's what I'm talking about, Evan. We're just taking we're gonna take our guns.
Let's just go take a look.
We're gonna go to the monk and we're just gonna go listen.
Like, listen, dude, we're with Mystery Bros here, all right? Yeah. So we're pretty important, and we need to see if this is the real Ark of the Covenant.
Yeah,
that'd probably be cool with it.
Right? What if he refuses? Then he won't refuse. He's not gonna refuse.
He won't refuse that. Yeah. I mean, we're Mystery Bros.
Yeah, he's not gonna refuse. Mystery Bros. We're gonna get down to the truth with that. Yeah, it's very important. But I wonder what else. What do they believe they're guarding? They definitely believe.
They believe they're guarding the Ark of the Covenant.
But what are they actually guarding?
I don't know.
Maybe it's something more mysterious, Evan.
What's more mysterious than the Ark of the Covenant, dude? That's like one of the most mysterious like things of all time.
I don't know. Other mysterious things.
I don't know. I think that they believe that they're guarding the Ark of the Covenant. Whether that actually is there or not. It's interesting that the priests tend to die very quickly. The ones that are watching it. They develop cataracts after just a couple of years.
But you can't. A lot of it can't be explained.
They say it's from the powers of the Ark. Just sounds to me like it's some sort of radioactive material, like highly radioactive material.
So you do think it's radioactive?
Yeah, dude. I think if you had to ask me, I think that it does exist, and it's a meteor, a very radioactive meteor that fell, and Moses found it. And I mean, obviously, that's really cool to see a meteor fall from space. So he thought it was more significant than that. And that's where the whole story of it being the tablets from God's 10 Commandments, blah blah blah, and it just became a huge legend thing. But it was really just a really radioactive meteor. Yeah, it killed some people. It fucked some people up because that's what really radioactive material does. But it wasn't as crazy as they make it out to seem.
And it's a great explanation. But I just think that it's one of those stories that's a myth. I think
You don't think it's real
I
at
don't.
all, huh?
I don't think. I think it's just like why
You
was
like
it so
that you side
important?
with Israel Finkelstein? Yeah, that's totally believable.
I just think why was it so important and why did you not care about it after a certain time? To me, yeah, they could have hided it, but I think there's a lot of great information you get from the Bible. I don't know how much of that is the truth.
I hear you.
But that's just my version. But I'm definitely open to it existing. If they find it, great. If Ethiopia is hiding the biggest secret ever, then fuck you, because I want to know. But it's honestly crazy. It's one of the biggest mysteries.
Basically one of the oldest, biggest mysteries of all time.
Because there's so much extensive written knowledge about it and then just kind of vanished.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
some people also think a lot of the archives was burnt in like libraries. Like a lot of our ancient past was like burnt down in libraries. So this could have been.
Yeah, so maybe it was well documented where it is now, but we just don't know because
A lot of it's just
You
been
know.
burnt and missing.
I just think it's interesting that the people in Ethiopia they actually claim that it's there. You know, they're the only ones. They're the only ones who say, "Hey, it's here. We're watching it." You know, nobody else has done that. So what? You know, I feel
Because no one else has the ark.
But yeah, I think that's really all
Yeah.
we can go into it. You know, if you want to do some more research on it, there's a lot more like super in-depth stuff you can do.
There's
but
a lot
as
of
far as like the big
documentaries.
picture,
Yeah. We covered the big picture.
yeah. And there are some other theories as to where it might be. I looked into some of them, and they just didn't seem. It was basically just a guy saying like, "I think it's here." So
Yeah,
I
I've
didn't
heard
count
some
that.
psychics say like, "Oh, I got a vision." It's
Yeah, I didn't count that kind of stuff. I didn't want to talk about that. I feel like it's silly. But there are some like documentaries. There's stuff online that you can look up about other possible places it could be and stuff. But yeah. So I think we've probably got time for a quickie.
all right.
A quickie conspiracy.
All right.
So. All right. So I think we can talk about something that I've not been wanting to talk about, something that has come up in a few various episodes that I think is kind of silly, but we got some time here. I guess we could talk about it. So the lost city of Atlantis. Was it real? Was it an actual place, or is it just like fiction from Plato? That's the only place it's really described, right? Is in the works of Plato.
So that's kind of where it plays like a huge,
Big role, right?
Yes. So if you hear about Atlantis, I mean, like it's intrigued the world. Like I think everyone's heard of Atlantis at some point in
of
their
course.
lifetime. The thing is, like, you would think of like if this was such a lost civilization that there'd be writings all over the place, like descriptions about Atlantis. But that's not really the case. It's only described in one place, and it's in one book. And in that book, he describes two fictional people talking about Atlantis.
Okay.
The reason why some people think that this story is true, because he goes into detail about the story, like how the city looks, the moats, everything around it. That doesn't really have to do anything with like moving on a story. Like
It doesn't have to do with the bottom line,
Yeah,
or it
like-
doesn't have to
like-
do with what he's talking about.
Yes.
But he explains the details.
he
still.
explains the details in very, very description way. Like it was studied. It goes into the history of Atlantis.
Okay.
And then the two people talk about this guy named Solon, who did exist, who got this information from the Egyptians. The Egyptian priest told the story down to Solon, and Solon passed it on Solon was real, and the Egyptian priest was real. So there are two real people
Okay.
that he mentioned that are actually true. If you look at Atlantis, he does explain why people think that it's made up. He explains that they were like gods. But like again, and skeptics will say, well, yeah, a lot of cultures peppered their stories, make them sound they're like mythic beings or like have greater than they actually were. Did you know that Atlantis? So the story goes that Atlantis was like this peaceful harmony utopia, right?
Okay.
And then they became more like humans, as Plato says. They were greedy. They wanted to control the world.
Okay.
So they kind of took over Europe, put people into slavery, and in Greece, they made a final stand against the which the Athenians call. The Athenians brought people all around Greece together, made a final stand in Greece, and defeated the defeated the Atlanteans. Excuse me.
Okay.
And the Atlanteans went back to home, but unfortunately, when they got back, they realized their home was gone in one day and one night.
Damn. What happened to it?
So earthquake, is what he says, tsunami, and made the land disappear.
Happens, right? It does happen, doesn't it?
It happens, yeah.
Yeah. Like tsunamis can wipe out small islands and shit, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And what gives the story a little more credence, Atlantis believers will say that you can see that they were humans because they were defeated at the hands of the Greeks. So, what happens? Do we have any evidence of the civilization? What can we say? Well, there's obviously a bunch of theories to where it's located. The one is it's located in Cuba. Have you heard of that?
No.
So there's this Cuban underwater city. It's found 2,000 meters, 2,000 feet in depth, right? Wow. So it's really deep down there.
It's really deep, yeah.
Yes. So they found structures. I'm going to show you a picture. I can't really explain it that well.
No, you got to try and explain it. This is a audio
I know. It looks like pyramids.
Okay.
And then with like gardens, and I'm going to show you the picture.
Okay.
So this is what they found. This is what they photographed back in 2001, right?
Yeah, it looks kind of like a little mini pyramids. I can't tell how big those are, though. Like, how big is that whole area?
Well, they're quite huge.
That's pretty big, then. Uh-huh.
These are huge.
Okay.
Right. And so the theory goes that could be Atlantis, right? Well, there's like a couple things that kind of damper this theory. First is that where it's found, that place was not on the ground until 50,000 years ago. So it was 50,000 years, and our written evidence, as we know, was at 5,000 years.
Yeah. Plato was not that long ago, right?
No,
Plato
that was 3,000 years ago.
Wow, 50,000 years?
50,000 years. If this exists, do y'all just think that this is hard to explain away as just geological? Because like looking at this picture, you see like it does not look natural made. Like
no, not at all.
But their explanation is it couldn't have been. Civilization wasn't there yet 50,000 years to create that, so it must not be real.
As far as we think.
Yeah, as far as we think.
I think we've already gone over this, but I think that civilizations were around way before we think they were.
Yes, I do too.
Way longer. I think that there's been advanced civilizations that have been completely lost and forgotten, that we just never knew about. And we think that just because there's evidence that we find that the oldest evidence of a civilization was a few thousand years ago, doesn't mean that that's the truth.
I agree. But there hasn't been any explanation since 2001. Since he made the claims, no one else has explored it, and the government's reason is because it couldn't be there. It should there's 50,000 years ago, humans didn't have that popper, so it must be made up. It can't be. That's their explanation. That's why they won't go look at it. And supposedly,
how is nobody going to look at it?
Supposedly, we do this private, costs a lot of money to bring everything down because it's deep down there and look. So looking for government funded, and the government funded saying it can't be. It has to be geological. Humans weren't that capable back 50,000 years ago. It can't be.
But those are the pictures from it? How can they look at those pictures and say that those are natural?
Huh?
How can they look at those pictures and say that those are natural?
Oh, that's because they said it can't. That's really their explanation.
But there's
Because it can't
way.
be.
Do they not believe those pictures then? Do they think those pictures are fake?
No, because you can go down there and you go look yourself.
Oh my God, that's weird.
But I do think it's not the lost city of
Well,
Atlantis.
someone's got to figure this. Someone's got to at least go explore it, right? Come on.
I agree. Like,
Can't we figure that out?
2001.
Like, let's do this. It's
Like, let's
2020.
let's like affirmatively say if it's man-made or not. Because if it is a man-made, that would change the history books.
Yeah. That's crazy. That there's just been no interest from anybody.
They're just
with
saying like,
enough
oh,
money.
it can't be.
It just is probably going to cost a lot of money to go down there. So they need to find someone with a lot of money who's willing to
Yeah.
float the bill for that one. But imagine if it comes out to be true that that's 50,000-year-old structures, then like that's a huge discovery.
That's huge. That rewrites all the history
I feel
books.
like you could make some money off of just being the guy who discovered that, right?
Yeah, I am with you. I don't get why people have not explored
Yeah,
since
that's
2001.
silly.
But the official explanation is they shouldn't be. Humans weren't that advanced then, so they can't be. It can't be, which is stupid. However, I do not think those are the ruins of Atlantis, because if they launched a naval war against ancient Athens, you would not go from Cuba and attack.
Yeah, that's really far. They have to go all the way across the Atlantic.
Yeah, 7 months.
Yeah, I don't think that's possible unless that is like. Plus, like you said, that had to be 50,000. That was way longer than that.
Yeah.
Way older than the supposed Atlantis.
Right.
So yeah, that probably isn't it.
But it kind of, there's also claims of it in being in the Bahamas where the Bermuda Triangle is, like, kind of has a mysterious, it's sunk there, it's a mysterious place. Where I think,
Again, that's super far.
yeah, so I think I can rule out all the Antarctic, South America positions for the location. Locations that have been interesting is in Greece. Off an island where an advanced civilization on an island about 5,000 years ago got wiped out by a volcano and sank to the bottom very tragically.
Oh.
And these were called the Minoans. They were far ahead archaeological as people should be around the world. So
What do you mean?
like far more advanced, like building structures that no one else in the world has built architecturally.
Okay.
So, which makes some think that maybe they called themselves Atlanteans before, because they were wiped out pretty fast by a tragic volcano that sank their island to the bottom.
Oh.
So,
Damn.
it could be Atlantis, but a few things that kind of pull this theory apart. It's supposed to be across from the beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which is now considered the Strait of Gibraltar, right? So it's supposed to be beyond the known world.
Yeah.
It's not beyond the known. It's in the Mediterranean.
Yeah, in their same Mediterranean Sea, right?
Right, and it went down 5,000 years ago, and Plato claimed it's at least 10,000 years before his time. So those things don't match up. There's no elephants. They said there are elephants abundantly around the island. No sign of elephants have been found.
Okay.
That's also a big damper to the theory as well. As you can kind of make it, if you kind of ignore some things of Plato, you can make it sound
Yeah.
that those are no one's Atlanteans. But it's kind of hard to like parallel, like even how the city is structured in like rings. It has not been found. So I don't think the Minoans are Atlanteans.
Okay.
And then another theory is called the Rehad structure in North Africa.
Okay. I think I remember this.
Yeah. It's like these circular...
It's in the Sahara, right?
Yes.
In the desert?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And it's like these circular...
Yes.
Big ass, like circular, like... Yeah, okay.
Structures.
I remember hearing about that.
So some people think that's Atlantis because it kind of matches descriptions. And like kind of landmass, it makes sense. But the big the big problem with it, Evan,
What?
what are the structures?
Nah.
Where's the pottery?
Yeah, there's nothing there,
There's
right?
nothing there.
It's just a weird,
Just
circular
weird
looking
circles.
thing.
Even if they were flattened or destroyed tragically by tsunami, you have to think something.
Yeah,
would
there'd be
left
some sort of structures there.
Yeah. So
Did they say that area was like would have been an island at the time, or no?
yes, so it would have been an island at the time. But the thing is, they
Because
don't
of the water
Yeah,
level?
they don't think it would have, but it wouldn't have tragically sank. Like the water just dissipated away. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like it dried
Yeah,
out.
true.
Didn't just sink. And then the last theory, I think the most plausible theory, has been
Is that it doesn't exist? Continue.
is in the Sultan Flats, Sultan Flats of Spain.
Okay.
They've done some geographic surveys of the ground there, and it looks like most structures are buried way beneath into an old harbor
Okay.
where Spain is. So they think maybe that's Atlantis. They found drawings of shields that look like Atlantis circles, so maybe an ancient civilization had a knowledge of this.
Okay. Was that on the opposite side of Spain as the Mediterranean Sea, or as the so that it was on the other side of the Hercules thing?
But
like they
again,
said?
you kind of also have to make this one fit because it says beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which kind of means beyond the known world. Spain would have been the known world still.
Yeah.
So that's a little hard one to go. That's the biggest evidence they have. Personally, if Atlantis does exist, I don't think it does, but it would have to be on the coast of North Africa. I feel like off the coast of North Africa.
Somewhere around there.
Because that's where elephants are, that's where
Yeah.
land is, and that's where you can mount a naval attack on ancient Greece.
Does it necessarily have to have been an island, or is it just described as it had like the moats around it with the water surrounding it?
Yeah, just
It doesn't
describe.
necessarily need to be an island,
No.
right? So it could be like some city, but they haven't found any city that resembles that, right?
No.
But this is thousands of years ago, so it could be buried or something. Right?
Yes.
Huh.
So they've actually made a conference in archaeology. If Atlantis was ever discovered, what parameters would have to fit? Because a lot of people thought Troy was mythical. Troy only appears in one place in the Iliad, written by Homer about 500 years before Plato. Only mention of Troy ever. So people thought it was mythical, and then that was proven to be real. So
Yeah, they found the area, right?
So people have hope that this could be real too. And just again, for me, if it was real, I feel like someone else would have had to written about it. They had an empire, like people putting people into slavery, and this is long before you think.
What if they did write about it and it was all lost when
So
it went under?
I don't mean to get into that.
Okay. Go ahead then. I'm sorry, jumping ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. So how did Egypt find out about this?
How did what?
Egypt. Like, why was Egypt passing it down to Plato? How did Egypt have knowledge about this?
Did they? I know Egypt talks about an island where there was gods, and then they all like a flood came and they all died and stuff like that. But they didn't necessarily say Atlantis, did they?
No.
Or they didn't describe
But some
it.
people,
like
some
Plato
people have
did.
linked it.
Yeah.
But like other people have linked it more to the fact that's where Plato said he got the story
Okay.
from.
From Egypt?
From Egypt. So pharaohs, it was passed down from the Egyptian priests. And they think that at the time after the freedom, and this is where it kind of gets a little speculative, there's supposedly an ancient library, hall of records, under the paw of the Sphinx that might have the answers that Atlantis.
That's like, you can't say that. Nobody can say that. You know what I mean? There could also be fucking my grandma's condoms underneath the fucking hand of the Sphinx. Nobody fucking knows. You know what I mean?
No, but what gives this a little theory?
Who says that?
Some out there archaeologists.
Yeah, exactly.
But what gives this kind of credence is that there are empty chambers found underneath the paw of the Sphinx. We
Yeah,
don't
I know that. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, there's literally no way you could be like, it probably has this in it.
No, but that's what
Because
some
nobody
people...
fucking knows.
No, people like just... Oh, like I was saying, think that it could be because when Atlantis went down, Egypt was probably the closest civilization that would have matched Atlantis. So people think maybe the remnants
Yeah.
And then Mike
Maybe.
Donnelly, who brought Atlantis back into spotlight, he wrote a top-spilling book called Atlantis, the Antediluvian Theory.
Okay.
And he theorized, like, he was intrigued by why all the pyramids around the world look kind of the same, have the same structures. So he theorizes that when Atlantis sunk, survivors went all around the world and brought their structures, brought their engineering knowledge with them, to them, over 9,000 years ago. Okay. And that's his theory. Again, nothing to back it up with what he thinks.
Yeah. It's an interesting theory, but it'll never be proved or disproved. No. You know what I mean? There's no way.
Unless that Hall of Records is found under the... Other ancient astronauts theorists believe that could actually be the location of, if we know if aliens helped us in the pyramids, in the Hall of Records.
And they think that's in the Sphinx's foot.
The Sphinx in the Sphinx's foot.
How do they know that?
They don't. They just know it. There's just an empty chamber.
There's just an empty chamber that they want to explore.
Yeah.
I hope that they do.
Yeah, which is, why not explore? Like,
yeah,
right?
Why not? That's the real question.
Government won't let them.
The government won't let them? Why?
Yeah. I feel like they, the most reasonable two theories. The most reasonable theory is they want to preserve the Sphinx. They don't want to, ruin it. The Atlantis theory is the government doesn't want people to know what's under there.
So they already know, but they don't want people to know?
Something like that. Or afraid that it could change, alter. Because if the Sphinx is 10,000 years old, as people think, then that would change everything. If there's a written record under there, that would change Earth.
Sweet. It would change our history.
Yeah.
Human history, which is cool. It's interesting to be a part of that. Why wouldn't you want to be a part of that? Why can't we explore that shit? Like,
I know.
Who the fuck cares? Listen, the Sphinx has been. We've had plenty of chances to see it. If it gets a little destroyed, does it really matter? If we figure out something that monumental about our history, isn't that more important than preserving something that's been around for thousands of years that we've had plenty of chance to look at? We've had plenty of chance to see it. You know what I mean? Why not, figure that shit out? There's a chamber in there that could have all kinds of awesome, crazy secrets.
We could.
But what if we go in there and we destroy it and then there's just nothing in there? Then fuck.
I think that's probably what the government's afraid of.
Yeah, and then they're like, oops.
Because you can claim anything with a chamber, right? That you don't know. Oh, dude, there's an alien spacecraft in that chamber. There's that in that chamber.
Yeah, you can claim anything. So that's why I feel like it's silly when these guys are like, oh, they think Atlantis, blueprints to Atlantis are in there. It's like, well, you could say that, a Teletubby could be in there. Then for all we fucking know, it's silly to say stuff like that, I think. I just want to figure it out. I just want to go in there and explore it.
Yeah. I know. That would be crazy, what you could, if there is something cool in there.
Yeah.
That'd be an amazing discovery. I mean, ancient records of Egypt, you don't know what that would contain.
Yeah, dude. It's
maybe
shit from the lost Library of Alexandria,
Yeah.
If the Library of Alexandria didn't get burned down, so much cool information we could have had right now, probably.
Maybe we would have had more information about Atlantis if it existed. Maybe not. Maybe we have more information on how the pyramids are built. Maybe not.
For sure, I feel like.
Yeah. Blueprints.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that we would probably get found out. If we ever went down in that paw and there was a library, I feel like there'd definitely be descriptions about how the pyramids were built, 100%. Maybe not.
But some people, some people think that the Sphinx is much older.
If it's older, then it would be. Who knows what you'd find under there if it's that written record? If it's 10,000 years or older,
it could be creepier. Ooh.
Who knows what you find?
Man. So Atlantis, is that most of it? That's what we got? Yeah,
that's what we got.
So there's not much. No one really knows where it is.
No one really knows.
If you had to say right now, do you think it was a real place, or do you think it was just a place that Plato talked about to use?
So I'm kind of torn. But I kind of tend to believe it's more of a story, just a story passed on. I don't think it exists because I just feel like someone else would have written about it if it did. But the potential's there. I mean, if Homer's Iliad, the Trojan, was found, like, this could be true too. One thing to note with Plato, he did write a lot of true, accurate events using two fictional people to talk about them.
Okay.
So that's one thing like scholars like to point out too, that like he's done that before with true things. Like, why is Atlantis any different?
Yeah.
It's just what you believe, what you want. There's not much evidence there. It only appears in one certain point of a book. It's what you take of it.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much where the story of Atlantis comes from.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. This has been a cool episode.
Definitely.
You know, you finally got to talk about Atlantis. You're happy about that now? You finally got to talk about Atlantis. And a lot of super ancient stuff that we talked about today. I mean, the Ark of the Covenant, one of the oldest mysteries of all time. And then we also got to talk about Atlantis, which is even older, right?
Yeah. 9,000 BC. This would have been before
any
years
earlier.
Yeah.
Even. So yeah, super ancient mysteries we had here.
That's why they kind of link it to the paw of the Sphinx, because when Atlantis supposedly disappeared, and if you believe that the Sphinx is 10,000 years old, then records.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really interesting to think about this kind of stuff, like the Ark of the Covenant, like especially something that was so documented so much in the Bible, like something that we have so much documentation about, but we don't really know much about.
And how powerful it was.
Yeah, and how all the crazy things it did. So it's really cool to talk about that. And
you know, maybe it's a good thing we've never found the Ark of the Lost Covenant. Just all of its powers.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows, man? What if what if it could kill thousands of people? What if coronavirus is from the Ark of the Covenant? Whoa, we're going real deep now.
What if the Ark of the Covenant is from Atlantis, Evan? Like, strange and strange. Both mystical.
And then Moses found it eventually. Man, that's some crazy shit. But man, we're getting real deep into conspiracies now.
We're making up our own conspiracies now.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so I think next week we're gonna do Skinwalker Ranch, right?
Right.
Ooh, Skinwalker Ranch. I love it. It's so fun. It's super interesting. So many like different stories of like supernatural, paranormal, weird shit that went down at this one area, to the point where the government actually sent in people to check it out. So this is kind of crazy. Then it's definitely gonna be talking about aliens. Definitely talking about all kinds of supernatural, paranormal stuff. So
there's a lot
to talk about there. So stay tuned. Next week we'll be talking about Skinwalker Ranch.
Right, and how Atlantis impacts Skinwalker Ranch.
No, we won't be mentioning Atlantis. Hopefully much at all anymore.
The joke, you cut that out. It's all cut out right there.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening to Mystery Bros. Tune in next week for Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh yeah, Skinwalker Ranch.
Keep social distancing. We'll be done with this soon, hopefully.
Stay woke.
And see you guys later. Peace out.
Peace.
Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Bros. Mystery Bros.
Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Bros. Mystery Bros.